It's hard to imagine this today, but there was a time when Christians had little concern for foreign missions. But God has always been concerned for the souls of His people, and He began to burden men and women to take the gospel where it had not yet been preached. This journey takes me to India to search for objects that will help tell the story of two faithful missionaries.
I'm getting set up for a big day here. We're in Calcutta. We're on the William Carey Trail. We're off to see the place where he served, the university he founded, and hopefully to find some really interesting objects related to his life. But first, we got to get some food.
Sit in the front, I reckon.
William Carey was not the first Christian missionary to India, but he was one of the first, and undoubtedly the most important. His great contribution was not just doing missions, but calling the whole church to missions. To properly understand Carey, we need to head back to England, where before he was a pastor or a missionary, he was a humble shoemaker.
Second-hand shoes bought and sold, presumably. The sign that hung over Carey's shop. Let me read the back here. Part of the shoeboard of Mr., now the Reverend Dr. Carey, written by himself when a shoemaker at...
So I might have cheated just a little bit here. I wanted all of the objects I found to be publicly available so anybody could find them in a museum or in a cathedral. This is not publicly available. This is the archives of Angus Library in Oxford University. I needed to secure special permission to get in to see them, but what a treasure trove of objects related to Baptist history and related especially to William Carey.
Dr. Carey's Bible, presented by the Reverend W. Knowles. The box from oak in Dr. Carey's workshop at Hackleton. So the opening page explains where the Bible came from. Lucy Plackett was the sister of Mrs. Carey. It explains it was in her possession. And then when she parted with the Bible, she declared that it was Dr. Carey's Bible. And the final line was, she was a pious woman.
So I had seen the signboard that hung above his shop. I had seen his Bible. I was about to start reading through his journals. I mentioned to the archivist there was one other object I had hoped to track down.
No,
Is the snuff box.
He's going to go for the snuff box again.
I can tell you where it is.
Can you?
Yeah, it's in Kettering.
Is it really? Where?
Yeah.
The snuff box is?
Yes.
Where is it? I
It's
looked
at
all over
Kettering
for it.
Baptist.
It's where?
Kettering Baptist.
They have the snuff box.
Yeah. So yeah, so it's at the there's a Baptist Heritage Centre at Kettering, at Fuller Baptist in Kettering.
Okay.
And they have a snuff box.
Our day just changed.
My day was changed, but there were a couple of other Carey sites we wanted to see along the way.
This is Carey Baptist Chapel in Hackleton. Hackleton played a very important role in the life of William Carey. He came here as a shoemaker and set up a shop. It was here that he began to be stirred by Christian matters, that he began to study the Bible. It was here that he came to saving faith. Then he began to study. His shop would be called William Carey's College. He began to study the original languages, dove deep into his Bible. It was here God began to stir him toward mission. So this town played a very, very important role. It was right near the spot that he first began to meet in a meeting house, set up a congregation, was one of the very first members of it. Is it down there? Oh, Alfred Place, yeah. Alfred Place between a wine shop and a hairdresser. Yep. Hey, you got it. Very nice to meet you. I'm Tim.
Hello, I'm Roger Beebe.
Our new friend Roger is reading from the church minute book that describes the ordination ceremony of William Carey, and it tells about some of the noteworthy figures who were there, including Andrew Fuller.
On Tuesday, May the 22nd, 1791, our brother William Carey was solemnly ordained to the pastoral offices of this church.
Wow.
That's a nice,
Yeah.
it's a nice entry, isn't it?
Can I try and make it out here?
Something after Mr. Fuller of Kettering
Yes, they're all
to
there.
the
you
people
see.
of Mr. Ryland of Northampton. The ordination prayer. So were they all there? Is
They're
that
all
what's
there. At his,
Pretty typical. It's just an interesting collection of people.
well, it's all key
Who else
people.
would you expect, right?
Well, the key lads,
right,
aren't they? Yeah.
right. Yeah, it's got to be quite a moment then.
This is volume 1 of Cook's Voyage, which was an account of Captain Cook's voyage to the Pacific Ocean, being a copious, comprehensive, and satisfactory abridgment of the voyage. And these books, 4-volume set, were used in really remarkable ways in the life of people like John Newton. They motivated him to pray. He learned about people in the South Pacific and New Zealand and decided he needed to pray that the Lord would send people there, and he became involved in doing that. William Carey read them as well and became equally involved then in being motivated to send people, perhaps even himself, to serve there.
Hello, is that Margaret? This is Tim Challies calling. I had spoken to you about seeing the museum today. Yeah, we're running a little ahead of schedule and have just left Leicester here. Is there any chance we'd be able to meet you? I guess we'll be about 20 past 10 when we pull into your neck of... Okay, wonderful. We'll look forward to seeing you. Okay, thank you. Bye now. There we go. Good news, she will meet us early.
His picture. Well,
Okay.
perhaps remove this duster.
All right.
Well, I do know who's left it there.
William
Now,
Carey's roots.
this is the little cottage where he was born.
Okay.
There it is. It's not there any longer.
Yeah, we went and saw the placard outside
Did you?
yesterday,
Right,
yeah.
the little cairn, which is made from
Right.
the stones of... that,
Right.
Margaret serves as the curator of a very small but very neat museum that's beside Carey Baptist Church. This is a home that once belonged to Carey and once served as his workshop as well.
Yeah.
He would have had the clench between his knees like
Right.
this, so that
And
he
work
could
on
have
it.
2 hands free
Okay.
to work on the shoes.
Wow.
So that's his stool and his clench.
Okay.
This is what's left of his pulpit.
Okay.
You'll see here what it looks like from a picture in a book. So it was once twice as high with
Oh, I see,
steps
yeah.
up to it,
Right.
but that's what's left of it.
Huh.
Now this is an object
Yeah.
of interest, a first edition.
Is that a
of the
first
Inquiry.
edition?
Yes,
I'd
it
like to
is.
see that, yeah.
Yeah.
I've been looking for one of these.
Have you?
Yeah, I have been.
And
Sometimes you find the most precious things in the most unexpected places.
An inquiry into the obligation of Christians
this
to
is
use
it.
means
And
for the
that's
conversion of the
letter that he wrote
heathens
begging for money for the church.
by William
I mean,
Carey.
he had it printed because it was, circulated, but.
As our blessed Lord has required us to pray that his kingdom may come and his will be done on earth as it is in heaven.
You can make the argument that the modern missions movement really began with this book. It was through this book that William Carey mobilized the church. Through this book, thousands of men and women responded to the call to leave the comforts of home, to go across the earth, and to take the gospel with them.
So we added a stop. So we found out about the snuff box. So yes, thank you very much. Much appreciated. So this is Carey Baptist Church in Moulton. And what have we seen? We've seen Carey's cottage, the last remaining building that he actually lived in is here. He also pastored this church for a couple of years. And a fun little collection of artifacts just in this cold stone building. Open a display case and they've got a first edition of his book in there. They've got some original letters he wrote in there. They've got the trough where he used to work his leather. This was an active shop right there. So amazing things. However, we're on our way now to Kettering because we've gotten a lead on an object that I think may do an amazing job of really telling the story of his life through a single object. Ever since I had this idea to pursue historical objects around the world, there's been one that has really jumped out to me. It's a strange one, it's a quirky one, yet I really think it tells a story beyond itself. And it is a snuff box, of all things. When the Baptist Missionary Society was founded, the gentleman involved immediately took up a collection, and to do that, they passed around Andrew Fuller's snuff box. For a long time, I didn't think it still existed. A lot of people told me it didn't. I'm pretty sure I found it. Hi there.
Morning. You're meeting. Oh, David. Come look at the snuff box.
I've come to see a snuff box.
You won't be able to get at it because it means having to lift this.
It exists. This is the snuff box. I was told it didn't exist. In fact, some very serious Baptist scholars told me it didn't exist. Yet here it is. It says this snuff box, possibly made of animal horn, was used for the collection at the 1792 meeting in Widow Wallace's home. The lid of the box depicts the conversion of St. Paul. So, Andrew Fuller's snuff box, there it is. What an object. Well, that was fun. One of those objects I wanted to have exist, one of those objects I finally tracked down. That was a joy.
We need to get back to India, but I gotta tell you, it felt so good to find that snuff box. It's such a quirky object, in some ways such a silly object, and yet it's so perfect in that it tells a story so far beyond itself that something like that could play a role in something as big as the founding of the modern missions movement. That collection marked the beginning of the Baptist Missionary Society, which would soon send Carey to India. He arrived in 1793 and settled in Serampore, where he committed himself to preaching and to translating the Bible. He also founded a college, which remains there to this day. I hired a guide to show me around.
This is William Carey's desk. He would use this primarily for writing letters, perhaps. He did some of his Bible translation here, but predominantly this was used for his incredible volume of correspondence. It's an interesting desk, little hidden compartments here and there, a little drawer that pops out here. He would sit here to write his letters and then take them or add them to this letter box, which was an important part of his filing system for his correspondence.
My guide was to take me to several other sites related to the history of missions in the area, including William Carey's grave. But first we had to stop and sample some of the local cuisine.
Burger King in some places. Forward on fast food.
Not too far from the university is this burial ground. This plot was purchased by the very first Christians as a place to bury their own dead. And fittingly, all three of those first great missionaries are buried here. And right here is the burial place of William Carey. He wanted to be buried in simplicity, and he got his wish. A wretched, poor, and helpless worm, on thy kind arms I fall. William Carey, born 17 August 1761, died 9 June 1834.
It has been a long day already. We finished up on the William Carey Trail and headed south. We left Calcutta, came all the way down south to Trivandrum, then about a 3-hour drive from there, and here we are at the very southern tip of India. Tomorrow we'll start to pick up the Amy Carmichael Trail and go up to Donavur Fellowship and see where she served, where she ministered. Just like to tell the story of William Carey, we had to go back to England. To tell the story of Amy Carmichael, we've got to begin in Northern Ireland.
This is where Carmichael's house was, since been demolished, but it was somewhere on this corner, the school right beyond, and then just down the way is the old mill house where her uncle lived.
It's difficult to imagine two places more different from one another than the south of India and the north of Ireland. Yet, this is where Carmichael came from, the little town of Malile.
Malile Baptist Church is right in the heart of the seaside village of Malile. This is a Baptist church now and has been since the 1950s, but long before then it was a schoolhouse, and it was a schoolhouse built by Amy Carmichael's father and her uncle, built to serve the children of this little village. And so right from there we see the legacy she had of caring for the young, ensuring they were taken care of, ensuring they received a proper education. Behind me is Welcome Church. This was founded by Amy Carmichael back in 1889. She was working in this neighborhood. This was once an area full of textile mills. Many people here lived in extreme poverty, and Amy wanted to work with them. And so she founded this church. She secured $500 from a donor and built what at that time was an iron church. It was essentially like a Quonset hut, a temporary structure that survived for many years and was eventually replaced, I think back in the 1950s, by this one. But this was a church founded by Carmichael where she worked amongst the poor. It survives to this day, still preaching the gospel.
That was dated back from 1916.
Yeah.
In Amy's handwriting. Yeah, that was quite interesting.
Yeah, come one, come all to the welcome hall and come in your working clothes.
Clearly, she was an ambitious young woman to be involved in the founding of a new church and even raising the funds to build it. That ambition would be put to the test in India.
Today's the day I get to explore Donavur Fellowship. This must be the most remote place we've chosen to explore in this round-the-world journey. This is where Amy Carmichael served for so many years. I'm so excited to check it out, to see what there is that remains from her life.
Thousands of missionaries followed in Carey's footsteps, with many of them settling in India. Nearly 100 years later, a young woman from Northern Ireland learned that girls in India were being forced into prostitution in Hindu temples. Amy Carmichael made it her life's mission to rescue them, to give them a home, to give them a family, to give them a future. This great ministry became known as Donavur Fellowship.
And then on the property, there are still children living here?
But now there's a lot of restriction because
Okay.
Ezekiel is serving as my guide. He's committed his life to this ministry, and he's explaining that things have changed a lot over the years. They don't take in orphans quite as much as they once did, but it's still a very active ministry, carrying out a lot of very important medical work and serving the people of this area.
So many children were rescued, and in different parts of the world, we are able to shine as witnesses for Christ.
Ezekiel is showing me the grounds, leading me around the very large property, and all of it is leading toward Carmichael's home.
Okay.
That too was built.
Okay. So all of this she saw, all of this was built under her.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Actually, most of the construction in DF was over by 1950s.
Okay.
All these buildings.
Okay. She died in, is it 1951? Right,
Yes.
okay. These are the living quarters where she stayed for many, many years. Many of her personal effects are still here. Her library is still here, and I believe largely intact. It's interesting to go through. She was a voracious reader and read across many, many topics. Of note, there's lots of commentaries, lots of Bible works, and then there's also quite a lot of biographies. She seemed to enjoy reading biographies of many of the great missionaries. Coming around, there's this painting here of the Matterhorn, and apparently she especially appreciated a metaphor related to mountains, which is sometimes life's trials seem too difficult to endure, and yet just as somebody eventually prevailed and climbed the mountain, so we too can endure and overcome through Christ's help the trials we endure. She spent her later years bedridden, and you can actually see a mark on the ground there where the post of the cot was. But above her bed then, she had these promises that were very precious to her. She would meditate on them, pray, and claim those promises to sustain her through very, very difficult days.
Two of those plaques say, "I know" and "Fear not." And there's a neat story behind them. At one point, a friend had heard from Amy that she was so discouraged, she feared that her injury had made her too big a burden on the ministry. And so the friend wrote her with words drawn from Revelation chapter 2, where Jesus says these words, "I know and fear not." Carmichael had made them into plaques and had hung them by her bed so she could meditate on them, and later she wrote a precious poem about them. I know. The words contain unfathomable comfort for our pain. How they can hold such depths I do not know. I only know that it is so. Fear not. The words have power to give the thing they name, for in an hour of utter weariness the soul, aware of one beside her bed, is comforted. O Lord most dear, I thank thee and I worship, thou art here. These simple words, as she meditated upon them day by day, gave her the strength to go on so she could carry out that work the Lord had called her to. One of the great joys, one of the great pleasures of traveling the world is meeting other Christians. And here in India, I meet May Mallard.
1948. Okay.
Amma died in 1951.
51, right, so 3 years old.
Amma gave me the name.
Oh, really? She gave you your name?
Flower.
Okay.
How amazing is that? She was brought here as a 3-year-old child, welcomed by Amy Carmichael herself, who even gave her name, Beautiful Flower.
Okay. So Amy built this, or Amy oversaw this being built? Wow. She was an ambitious person.
One of her tasks here, one of her joys here, is to play the bells. And so she asked us, what's your favorite song?
Yeah.
Not even coffee. Easter Sunday morning.
Okay.
This is Amma Bible reading storm. Amma and the soap, the little bed bath for the birds.
Right. Amma is mum, right? Mummy?
Mother.
Mother, yeah, right. So if we go around here and we see a child, they'll be saying Amma to their mother? Okay. It was her wish that she be buried in an unmarked grave. She'd be buried even without a coffin. They did not put her in a coffin, but they did choose to mark the grave with a simple bird bath. She had a great love for nature, a great love for animals, for birds. So they put a bird bath here with her name and the date of her death on it. And every day they come out and they put water in it to ensure the birds can still enjoy this spot.
I came to India to explore the history of Christian missions, to learn how God has called people to leave the comforts of home and to go where the gospel has not yet been heard. I found objects that help tell that story. But even better, I learned that the stories are still being told. Carey's influence has never waned. Christians have never stopped going. Both he and Carmichael exemplified his famous phrase, his famous challenge. Expect great things from God, attempt great things for God.
Beautiful.